And my name is Lana Charlton. I'm Ukrainian, so born and raised. My first time coming to the US was when I was 15. I won a foreign exchange student leadership exchange program scholarship. So that was my first kind of introduction to the US. And I went to Michigan for a year, and then I went back, finished university there in Ukraine, and then I got back here, this time to Maine because of the job opportunity I had here. Maine is definitely very different from anything I've ever experienced. I'm from a big city. I'm used to having millions of people around me, taking a subway to get places and so on. And Maine was a complete opposite of what I'm used to in terms of nature, not as heavily populated, really absolutely stunning and beautiful. So I just fell in love with it from the moment I got here. And it's now been 15 and a half years of me living here. And it's my home. I came here on a traineeship at CIE, which is Council on International Educational Exchange. They used to have an office here. I believe they still do. So it was post-college program. It was great. I mean, language aside, I just got exposed to a lot of different cultures working in that company. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are, but there was a ton of trainees and interns from all over the world that were there. So it definitely helped me learn more, not just about like what Maine is like or, improve my language, but also just to get exposed to other cultures around me. I'm the only child, so it was hard, for my parents to let me travel again across the ocean. So it was a little bit of an adjustment for them, for sure. But it is what it is. I'm very hopeful that Maine is going to continue growing, continue diversifying. I remember when I first got here in 2007, in February 2007, it was a big winter snowstorm and everything was closed. Like every single place was closed, and I was stuck in a hotel for a week, and there was nobody on the streets or anything. So that was kind of like my first welcome to Maine. And I was a little bit nervous, but then, as I was going to work, making new friends, learning, like seeing actually the nature too, like I realized how beautiful a place it is. And so now 15 years later, it's a completely different environment. Obviously a lot of people have come here and have seen what I have seen, and they love it as well, and moving here, and I'm very excited about it. So if you ask me 15 years ago what I would envision Maine to be like, it would definitely be a different answer than today. I see it as a potentially maybe some sort of a tech or educational hub in the future. I have a kid that's growing up here. I'm very excited for his future here. If I had him 15 years ago, I would probably envision him going to college elsewhere, but now I would be excited for him to be here. There definitely is. It's been interesting, obviously, in the last 3.5 months with, unfortunately, the war in Ukraine. So if before we were all Russian-speaking community, now we remain that, but it's a little bit more, I would say, politically divided to a certain degree. I mean, we're still all friends and we still all cheer for each other, but it's a little bit different. Ukrainians specifically, I would say, is relatively small as a community here compared to other states, such as like Florida or even Massachusetts. You go there and there's there's a bigger community of Ukrainians, but the ones that are here, we all pretty much know each other and we all support each other as much as we can, support each other not only here, but also our families outside of the country. Like my mom is with me right now. She was able to come here for the war specifically, but she's leaving in a month. Like, men could not leave, so my dad is still in Ukraine, and a lot of my friends have the same situation where their parents can't leave for age restrictions or military restrictions and so on. So they're all actually exchanging numbers now. Like, they're becoming friends. Like, we're friends here and our parents are becoming friends there and helping each other through it. So there's that. I'm so thankful, like even just driving with my mom, you know, I when I was picking her up, it was I think 7 days into the war, and it was the first time after it started that I actually slept. Because when she was here, I couldn't sleep for days. It was very, very difficult. And so when she got here, it was kind of like a breath of you know, relief a little bit. And but she was still stressed, and I just took her like for a ride, you know, around. I live in Cape Elizabeth, so around there, and practically every second house had a Ukrainian flag on it, and it's still every time I drive it, like it just warms my heart, because to know that you're not alone, and so many people unfortunately are like misplaced because of this war, and it's so nice that they can feel at home here. I know, it's so, I really mean it, like every single thing that people are doing here, it's unbelievable. Like just the amount of support from strangers, like even just saying hi, like if they see, let's say my mom wears a Ukrainian bracelet, and if they hear the language, they will say something, and just, you know, just kind of like put their hand on your arm, and it feels better, and it really helps people.
My name is Amran Osman. I'm from Lewiston, Maine, but I was born in Kenya. My family is from Somalia. I've lived in Lewiston my whole life, preschool, middle school, high school. I started out at Central Maine Community College and transferred to the University of Southern Maine, where I was pretty much involved there. I was on the Senate. I was the director of racial equity and inclusion, and that's where I got my start in like being a part of the community and helping people in the community, and that's when I realized I wanted to make a difference. I graduated USM in 2021, and that's when I started working at Gateway Community Services as the Community Resource Coordinator, where I helped immigrants who are coming into the community, but also that was around the time where I decided to start my own nonprofit, Generational Noor, which helps with the immigrant community figure out and get resources regarding the opioid epidemic, especially because it's so taboo and nobody talks about it. So having different community table talks and getting them resources that they need, especially by just tackling that conversation. As I got more involved in the community, I think what I like the most about Maine is the community, especially in Lewiston. When anything happens, people are able to come together and help each other. For a long time, especially when I was like in high school and middle school, finding anybody that could like help me with like college or just getting where I wanted to be. For the longest time, I didn't know what I wanted to do because I didn't see a lot of people of color or people who look like me in different places of power or different places that I found like interesting. So gradually I had to kind of put myself at those tables and find resources for myself. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I like being helpful or like being involved in the community, because I don't want my siblings or kids like that are younger than me have to go through that struggle that I did. I think for me it's just speaking up when there's anything that's wrong, or like being able to like make a difference, because like at the end of the day, like I'm a Somali Black woman. I don't have a lot of power, but the power that I hold, hopefully I can use it to make a change or find resources to help people. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I started my nonprofit, because I saw a way that I could help people. And as a youth who's been in Lewiston like my whole life, I've made connections, and I'm able to make connections and like find resources that other people don't have. So being able to do that is something that I like very like hold closely. So I think for me, being a leader is someone who's able to help people and like make a difference with whatever power that they have, even if it's very little. I think where I found that I could be a leader was at USM, and when I saw so many things that were happening that I didn't think were right, I was able to speak up, because before I'm still an introvert, and I kind of had to push myself out of my comfort zone. But gradually at USM, learning so many things about being a leader and just meeting other students who were student leaders and having them push me past my boundaries was very important. So I think USM and like my education there was my first step to being a leader, and that's where I kind of grew into myself and who I am today. What I like about like the younger generation is that they're not taking no for an answer, and they're all pushing boundaries and speaking up. So what I see in the future is a lot of more people of color and youth having their voices highlighted and like in places of power, because as you see, so many youth are like running for office or doing things with like pushing policies, doing like letters to the editor than they were before. So seeing so many youth take their future in their own hands and not just watching it from the sidelines, and like when they don't have a place at the table, kind of just finding their own way to build their own table. So for me, I think there's going to be a lot of youth who are in politics in like different spaces that a lot of youth of color weren't before. So being able to see that and see those changes is going to be pretty great and amazing. Yeah.
My name is Johanna Rivera. I am a sophomore at USM, and I'm a political science and international relations major. My parents are both from El Salvador, but I was born here in Portland, Maine, and I've lived here all my life. My parents are both from El Salvador. And around the 80s and 90s, there was a civil war that kind of led both of them here to Maine. I really love all the nature, and I really love all the diversity here in Portland. I think I had a really good experience here in Portland, just being able to meet so many different people from very similar cultures, but also very different cultures. And then once I started branching out into like areas like northern Maine and central Maine, I realized that there was a really deep history in Maine that, you know, there was a lot to learn about. I think one of the biggest struggles I've faced in Maine is probably just having to assimilate. Growing up in mostly white classrooms and white neighborhoods, I think it was very hard to find people who were similar to me, but once I started growing up and finding people who had a very similar experience here in Portland as me, it was very easy to pursue the activities and things I really cared about. I think education is probably one of the biggest influencers in my life. I think I had the opportunity to go to very open-minded schools that had like a very progressive curriculum, and I know not everyone in the state and the country has that opportunity, and I think my education here in Portland really gave me the opportunity to explore my leadership capabilities. And then I think as far as it impacts my family, I know both of my parents only had the chance to graduate from the equivalent of high school in their countries. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity I have here in Portland to build my education and build my future family's possibilities just through my education. So I'll get the opportunity to work in things and areas that maybe my parents and grandparents didn't have the opportunity to work in. I'm really grateful for that. And I think one thing that gives me hope in Portland is just how many movements and opportunities that are being created to help with the housing crisis and ensuring that people aren't being evicted from their homes, as we have all these new apartments and complexes and just properties being pushed into Portland. So I think I'm optimistic in the fact that we're not just a community that's going to let people slip through the cracks, and that we're not going to push them out of Portland. And I think groups like Catholic Charities, but also other smaller organizations in Portland do give me that optimism. I think my biggest advice is to just be able to take a step back even when things are heated, even when things seem impossible, even when differences just seem too big to overcome. I think just being able to take a step back and recognize the fact that we're all humans and that we're all coexisting in the same space is probably my biggest advice. And then from there is just recognizing and honoring your values as a human. I think my biggest struggle was just being able to come to terms with the things that I care about and the things that are important to me. But once you take that step and accept that there are issues in this world that you really deeply and truly care about, it becomes way easier to work with other people from there. I think I see myself moving into politics as a player. I had the opportunity to work with this program called Can We? And it gave me a really good opportunity in high school to work with people who had different political points of view than me. And I think for me, my biggest thing is trying to reach across the table even when people seem like they have very different values than you. And I think that was probably one of the biggest influencers for me because, I want to focus on politics and those differences on an international national level, because, you know, here in Portland, I think it's a perfect example where we have so many people coming from different places with different experiences, but we're all, you know, dealing with the same issues here in Portland, regardless of where we come from. I think it's important just to have more people that look like me and have, you know, very similar experiences as me, you know, at the table with me.
My name is Razan Dhaka, and I'm from Nepal, and I moved here like in 2017 for college, and I graduated this December, and right now I'm working for Abbott Laboratories as a chemist. I love the people around, everybody's friendly. Also love the scenic areas that are like around here, and the weather, it's not bad in summer. In wintertime, it can get a little bit too much, all the snow and everything. But in general, yeah, I love everything about Maine. Oh yeah, when I first moved here, the main challenge for me was, of course, the cultural difference. And I was here for college, so I kind of struggled in college as well in first semester due to, of course, like English. Yeah, right now I feel like I've overcome like most of the challenges, but that was definitely like one of the hardest part, cultural difference and language barrier, of course. We didn't have like a big Nepalese community here, so I feel really happy to represent the culture that's over the past few years I've seen like the community growing, and then whenever I can I get to help the people who moved from like other parts of the US, like especially Nepalese people or people who moved from Nepal. It feels really awesome, you know, to be a part of that. Yeah, I graduated this December, so going to college here was awesome. The most like fascinating thing for me was my professor. They were like really helpful. Like even on the times when I struggled, I got like full help from them, and overall the experience was amazing. And I graduated. I have a really good job right now, so yeah, I'm happy overall. I'm the first college graduate in my family, so I guess that counts as something. And personally, I feel like education is like one of those tools which could be really useful to tackle those kind of social problems. And if we work hard on the field, personally for me, I'm in biological sciences field, so I could be working more with like public health crisis. And I am certain there are people who are working on the other social problems like housing or homelessness. And I believe if you know, required materials and tools and resources are provided, there is definitely the problem will be solved in near future. For me personally, the resources that could be provided by the authorities for the like graduates like me who needs like exposure to the real world, as we say, could be very helpful for us to like grow and lead the community, I guess. I don't feel like I'm in any kind of position to give anybody advice, but from my personal experience, what I would say is like keep working on like on whatever you are interested. Just keep working on, and one day it'll be worth it.
Hi, my name is Alicia Scott. I'm originally from Russia. I used to live in Russia for the first 30, let's say, years of my life, and born in Volgograd, then moved to Moscow, and eventually moved to Maine. And we've been in Maine for the past 7 years. But to say it short, so my family and I, so we had to leave Russia, and not having a particular detailed plan in place, we moved to the US in general, and accidentally we found ourselves in Maine. That was not, again, a plan, to be honest. I'm currently HR director with one of Maine's nonprofits. And I've been in HR back in Russia, so generally, I mean, the total experience is about 15 years now in HR, and again, thankfully, I was able to continue building my career here in Maine. And I remember us coming to New York as tourists, several years ago. We moved, and again, I think you're familiar with New York and the feel of the city. So for us, New York felt very quiet. So you can imagine that, of course, Portland felt very, very quiet. And but it's actually now at first we didn't appreciate it as much as we do now. Finding the community that would understand what we were going through was relatively easy. I wasn't looking for, let's say, Russian-speaking community, and also due to the fact that my own family is kind of international. Like my husband is from Congo DRC, so he has his community here. However, again, both of us are really open, so we're not looking and have never been looking for any particular community in regards to the country of origin. So we're mostly open to anyone, and of course when you're talking to other immigrants, so you can definitely find a lot of things in common, regardless what country in particular you're coming from. Generally, it's easy to connect if you want to, or even if you don't realize how much you want to, but it's just really, you just start from one step, and it develops pretty rapidly into something bigger. With all the employers that I've worked either directly or partnered with, I definitely try to educate in regards to how to work most effectively with either non-English speakers or just generally new professionals to Maine. So I need to be honest, this is probably the first time I've ever felt that feel of shame for my country, and that was the first time when I started pausing while answering the question, where are you from? That really never happened before, and that's a very hard experience for myself, and I know for a lot of community members from Russia. I know that people in Maine and generally in the US are able to make that good distinction between politics and regular people, but I do feel that there's already some change in regards to perceptions of Russian people, which I definitely blame on the president and his actions, but that's a hard topic. I hope that everything what's happening now won't affect again Russian immigrants in Maine, to put it shortly.
My name is Shedi Agbonsalo, and that's what everybody know me by, and I'm from Nigeria, born and raised in Nigeria, from Benin City, Edo State, and coming to Maine was through college. So I attended the University of Southern Maine for my bachelor degree in health science and my master degree in leadership studies. There's some things I like about Maine, I believe Maine is one of the most beautiful places during the summer, but during the winter, I don't like it. It's too cold, but I can't complain because you live in New England, either you're in Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, it's still gonna be cold. So during the summer, I love it here in Maine. I can't, probably top 3 most beautiful place in America during the summer. So that's one thing I love about Maine. Going to USM and being a first-generation college student, it can be a lot, whereby you try to get the support from your parents, whereby they have 3 jobs, 2 jobs, and still find a way to still support the family. I'm just grateful and blessed that I was able to, get a master's degree, a bachelor degree, because that was the dream and prayers from, my parents to, if they can't accomplish this, they want their children to be able to accomplish what they were unable to accomplish. And they're super proud that, myself, my brother, my sister have been able to get their degree, and being proud that they can go out there and say, well, my children also have the degree, something we can get, and I'm thankful for that. So I went back to school and do my leadership studies because my career goal was to be an academic advisor. Right now, I'm an academic advisor at USM. When I went to a community college before coming to Maine, I went to North Shore Community College, and my guidance counselor was white. And then coming to Maine, my guidance counselor was also white. And then I just feel like it's really good, whereby Maine, I think, is getting diverse. Increase of immigrant, the Congolese, Angolas, Somali, and whereby if you have an advisor and they don't see, should I say, they're kind, I don't know if that's discouragement, where there's a problem, they want to run to somebody to talk to. They might not have the connection on how to communicate with, another race, but I see myself as a point of contact whereby, oh, Shadi's there. I can go talk to Shadi about, this problem, because I've been there and I understand the struggle. Even though I've graduated and I said this is my career plan, being an advisor, some days I'm like, wow, I don't want to do this anymore. Some days I'm like, oh wow, I really like this job as an academic advisor. Some days you meet a student and you're like, wow, I'm happy that I'm doing this, and for recent graduates, for students that have graduated, last year, 2 years ago, you might find a career right now, and tomorrow you can say, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I would say just take it step by step. It's gonna come true what you want to do. As long as you can do something to impact the next generation, yourself, your family, I believe you'll be good. Just do what's right and leave the rest for God. With having this opportunity, I just I want to say this. It's crazy out there for immigrants, and it's not easy. And to the white folks thinking that immigrants come to this country to destroy America or turn America upside down or steal or do all that. No, I'm one of many that have accomplished something great in America. I'm one of many that have benefited from the American dream. There are still more that are going to accomplish this. I believe the government, the local councilor, the Senate, or whoever is in position, I believe, and I strongly believe, you guys have the power to do what's right for the community. Let's try to do what's right, because we're human. If you open your skin today, you see blood. Your blood is red, mine is red. The way you treat me today, there's always tomorrow. It will be awesome to please, and please, let's support and help out your fellow human being, please. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Sulwan Ahmed. I am originally from Sudan, but home for me has become Portland, Maine. I came to Portland, Maine as a refugee in 2003. So I was a bit of a baby. I'm only 22 years old now. And so I don't remember much of the journey, but I know that my family was in Gadaref. I was born in Eastern Sudan, Gadaref. And my dad went to Egypt when the genocide broke out because he was exiled from the country. And so he was in Egypt processing the papers to seek refuge in a country outside of Sudan. And then we were granted refugee status in Portland, Maine. And at the time, there was an influx of Darfurian Sudanese refugees who came to the United States and stayed in Portland, Maine. Actually, Portland is home to the largest Darfuri demographic outside of Sudan, and I think the largest Sudanese community in the U.S. right now.
Hello everyone, my name is Mazin Ahmed. I was originally born in Sudan, in Wad Madani, around 24 years ago. But then I moved to Qatar, in Doha, and lived there for like 14 years because my dad was a professional soccer player there and he worked for the military. So my mom moved with him and took me with them, and then both my siblings were born there. Around 2012, we decided to come here to Maine and to seek asylum actually. And we came from Qatar directly to Maine because my auntie lives here. And I had to start filling out all the paperwork and translations at like 14. And I still do it, and I'm 24 now, so it's been part of my routine. The journey was, I think the journey is still going because, for example, as an asylum seeker, it doesn't end until you're a citizen. And it goes, you go in, all you get is your work permit and then like a protective status that you renew every couple of years, and then you hope for a court date or like an interview, you get your citizenship like 4 years after that. But for our case, we got our interview around 2017, and we went there and the guy was like, you know what, I can give it to you, but I don't know anything about Qatar, so I just send it to a judge. So he sent us to a judge, and then it was transferred 3 times to 3 different locations, not locations, 3 different times throughout the years. And then eventually 2019 we got our acceptance, and a year later we were supposed to get the green cards and stuff, but COVID hit 2020, so we just have our like permanent residency, which is still the same thing. So I would say my journey is still going as an American. I do not like the cold at all in Maine, but I like the vibrance and the flamboyancy of the environment and the people. It's a big community. I don't see it as a state, I see it as its own private island, you know, where everybody has like the same motivation to this and that, and everyone's friendly and nice, so it's pretty cool.
In terms of like Portland, Westbrook, the greater metropolitan area, it's a beautiful community. I feel like the community has really created what Maine is today, from working jobs to just the culture, diversifying Portland. And a lot of that isn't acknowledged, but I think we acknowledge it within the community. And I mean, I love the people I grew up with, people I went to high school with, always motivating me to do better, and consistently being my inspiration, because again, like, our parents sacrificed so much for us to get here, alhamdulillah, and so it's the least we can do for ourselves, for them, and the community.
It was hard at first, I think, up until I went to university. I was still in that gray area where like, damn, do I fit in, do I not fit in? But as things go by, as you meet people and you meet the communities and stuff like that, you grow to like understand who you are, your identity, and then fight for your identity for a lot of racial causes, like justice causes and stuff like that. So knowing who you are has been my biggest struggle, but as time went by, and you know, I'm getting old now, so I've learned to like myself and understand who I am and why I'm doing this.
I think when you come here as an immigrant and refugee, you deal with, again, a lot of culture shock and imposter syndrome, and navigating these systems where they're created for us, but they don't accommodate us because we weren't involved in the process of making them. So reminding younger people that anything is possible, and accessibility is something we should all be working towards.
Whatever I do, because I have not chosen my exact profession yet, but whatever profession I get, the only concern I have in my mind is I'm not just doing it for myself, because the community that brought me up, my family, my friends, because if I just do it for myself and then just move out the hood, for example, and then just go, that's just me being selfish. So I have to acknowledge that I did not do this alone. I did this with the people and the community behind me. You have to give back to the community, no matter what. Because I feel like that's what a leader is. No matter who you are, what you're doing, where you are, you need to just understand that you're not just doing it for yourself.
Like the saying goes, it takes a community to raise a child. So when you are doing something, you're not only doing it for yourself, because there are elements of the community that exist within you. And so when you do something, you're obviously going to be doing it for that community too. And it's best to make sure that it's not for selfish reasons why you're doing what you're doing. We got it as long as we got each other. So
yeah, be yourself, no matter what it is. Be yourself. Because a lot of people come in here and they have their own little personality that they've had, and then they move into a new place, everything's just gone because they feel like they need to let go of it to assimilate with people. But that's not going to help you grow in a lot of ways. So if you stay true to yourself, not for everyone, but for your own self, for your own good, you're going to prosper in a lot of ways. You're going to see yourself being more open to a lot of ideas, a lot of opportunities, a lot of fun things, maybe play sports, activities, pick up new hobbies, new talents, meet new friends. So as long as you're being yourself, you're going to be doing amazingly well.
I agree. And also, don't let the words of community impact your perspective of yourself and the people you're around. Growing up in like an African community, there's gossip obviously that goes around all the time, kalam, and it really does impact your relationship with people. And I don't think like our parents understood how much it impacted us like as kids and developing the necessary relationships we need with people in our community. So like I've had this conversation with like my mom, even my aunties, like we need to do better, not only for us, it's not us anymore, it's like the younger kids who need each other. Like if you are not white, if you are not the majority, it is hard. So definitely that, and being true to yourself and honest with yourself all the time.
My name is Masha, Gabriel Mikhail. I'm originally from Ethiopia. I moved here about 10 years ago. I am a USM graduate with a major of athletic training. Originally, when I moved here, it was during the winter time, so there wasn't anything to love about it. So after a few years, I kind of got used to it, but I love how everything is within close proximity, especially in Portland. Portland is a big city in terms of how many people live in the city, but it's a small town, so everything is close proximity. So I love that, and also not too big things happen here. So I love the chill quietness of Maine. Yeah, I was kind of shy. I kind of like reserved. I didn't do too much stuff until my junior year of high school, when I had a conversation with my guidance counselor, and she kind of encouraged me to like join a club, a sport, which I did join cross country, and that kind of helped me kind of integrate myself to like something to do outside of school, and running was that thing, and I kind of started loving it. Then I went to college and also ran in college. I went to USM, and after a introduction class to athletic training, I kind of thought that would be a great place to have as a major, since it was medicine and athletic stuff. So I love that kind of thing, and I declared my major as athletic training my sophomore year, and after 4 years, I graduated as an athletic training major. My dream is to work at a college as an athletic trainer. Initially, I am trying to go for a master's in kinesiology, which is kind of integrated to athletic training. I want to work as a higher level of athletic training, so my master's would help me get to that place. I would love to work in Maine. Some college in Maine would be a great place to work on, but any place in New England, I would definitely work there. I think Maine's future is going to look like, I've seen so many stats about Maine, how it's one of the widest states in the United States, how it's, instead of in terms of age, how it's the oldest. I think that's going to change a little bit. I've seen a lot of diversity coming through, and a lot of acceptance from the citizens that live, the Maine residents. So I see a lot of diversity, a lot of community with diverse ideas just coming together and working to excel Maine to a higher position. I believe the next generation is, if they don't move, even though a lot of people say they will move to another state, because this state it doesn't have the excitement a lot of states have. I would say Maine it's a great place to develop as a student, and kind of if those students stay here and work to kind of make Maine great, I think those individuals can excel.
Hello, my name is Daniel Lawanga. I am currently a college student at the University of Southern Maine. So 8 years ago, almost, it's going to be during August, later August, it's going to be 8 years that we've been in Portland, Maine, and America as a general. So we moved here from the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2014. And ever since being here, we've just been welcomed by the community and just everyone, and it's just been a great place to live. A lot of my friends, myself and my family, like my siblings, we used to go to the Boys and Girls Club, and there were a lot of immigrants just like us from Congo, from South Africa, from Angola, and Sudanese people as well. So it's just really an interesting mix and pot, and so just seeing all these different people made us feel more welcome in terms of look at all these other people that are just like us, and not knowing how to speak to other people, just being closed off and not knowing how to integrate with others. I know a lot of times when I was in middle school, in 8th grade especially, I didn't have that many friends, or at all really. I used to hang out. I actually used to sit with the teachers during lunch, which is as far as I can go these days. But just like being able to make connections and friends at first was difficult, but eventually you overcome it by, just putting yourself out there more and trying different things and trying new activities and just being more open to meet and greet new people, basically. A lot of Mainers really are also interested in learning about the new immigrants that come here, and they love learning about their culture, their past, their reasons of being here, and they really love enjoying bringing more of them into, I guess you can say, society or American culture in many ways. I know when we were at the Boys and Girls Club, and even at the shelter, we used to get invited to many of these different Maine families that just wanted to know who we are. At church, at the cathedral here, church community over there is great, and a lot of the members like knowing and meeting new people, and so those were really some of the ways we got integrated and some of the ways people showed their kindness towards us as well. Oh, actually, I wanted to leave out of state, like the 99.9% of people that go to high school here, but really at the end it came to financial decisions. USM gave me a full ride scholarship to attend there for 4 years, and really that was, if I'd picked anything beside that, that would have been a mistake, because I know there's a lot of people paying their college debt. Our country's college debt is over $1 trillion, and so if we're given that opportunity to go to college for free, then that's the best way to take it. I was definitely against it at first. I didn't want to stay home with the parents anymore. I mean, 18 years, that's too much for me. But eventually I came to mind that it was the best decision. Staying around family is good. Going to a free college is good. Staying home and eating mom's cooking was even better. And also not paying rent and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, USM made the most sense. So I'm studying computer science, which is also called software engineering in the real world. I'm hoping to be a software engineer as well myself. And I'm hoping to also start my business maybe. I know opportunities are rising and will come. I want to stay close to my family and the people that I know and the community of Portland, Maine, because it's so diverse. And it's also a great place to just live overall, and great food as well. So there are many things that I always think about when talk about what I want to do in the long term. I really like to linger on the topic of education and improving education overall. I know I have been going through free education for the last 19 years now, but I noticed that there's some ways it could be better and improve, ways that students can be achieving much higher success and getting into even better schools and getting better education. And so that's one of the things that I want to use my software skills for. And even sometimes I also think about going back to my home country, and because it's really in deep poverty and in deep shambles in many ways, I want to help education over there as well too. My advice would definitely be open to meeting new people, and especially Mainers. I know a lot of us in our own communities, even when we get here, we like to stay closed off. A lot of times we only hang out with our people, or you Congolese, or you Rwandese, or you from Angola and whatnot, our people. But I think it's definitely a beautiful thing when you start to experience the different groups of culture and learn the way that they do life and how they're traversing this earth and whatnot. And so definitely that. My mom say this a lot, so I have to say this. Don't lose your language at all. Everyone has been saying me this. Like literally everyone, my mom says, you shouldn't lose your language. And everyone is like, yeah, you should listen to your mom. But yes, not losing your language is very important. It's really gonna help you a lot. Just knowing 2 languages is really awesome. And it really puts you a step ahead of most people. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm Shevin Sabati. I'm from Iran. I was born in Iran and I ended up in Maine because my family, we escaped Iran and we came to US. We came here in February and it was so much snow. It was a lot of snow and I did not know what was going on because every place looked the same because of all the snow. So it was very confusing for a bit. But we escaped Iran because Baha'is, I'm a Baha'i, and Baha'is are minority in Iran and they're not allowed to go to universities and achieve higher education or get jobs, government jobs. They're considered second citizenship, so that was the reason we escaped Iran. And there was a huge Baha'i community here. Even though they were from different races and cultures, it still felt like a home to me because my religion is my community, and it felt like I'd never left Iran because I have my community here. As a Baha'i, we weren't allowed to attend universities in Iran, so it was a big deal for me to go to university. There are so many hiking spots here. There are so many. The ocean here is amazing. I go to ocean once a week. Instant prom. Bar Harbor is amazing. I love the summer here. It's wonderful. Me and my friends, I always reach out to them to go for a nature walk, which leads to deeper and meaningful conversation, and we build stronger relationship together. So the nature help definitely helps to build a stronger community. Fitting in the school, like coming as a new student who doesn't speak English, was very tough for me. Trying to understand everyone and because all the jokes here is very different than the jokes in Iran. So trying to understand what are the humor here, what are the culture here, that was very difficult at times. But watching shows and having a lot of friends, trying to be open-minded and trying to make friends helped me to overcome that challenge. I like technology and data, so it helps. I can find a way to help my community by data, and I work at Office of Maine Refugee Services, and I'm a database engineer there, and I help, in a way, pulling the data and reporting it to the government helps our helps our population to grow in Maine. In my case, I feel like workplaces are more open and more friendly in my case, so it was very easy settling in a workplace here, and especially everyone where I work at, they're all super friendly and nice. So when I came here 2009, we all heard about racism in America and all that stuff, but I personally love Portland and people were always friendly to me. I'm sure me personally did not experience that from going to shopping and other stuff, but I'm sure other people did experience injustice. But in my experience, Portland was great and I loved it. I envisioned there are no wars happening in the future. I envision everyone treat each other with equality and respect. We all have a sense of understanding that we are all humans, that we all came from the same dust, and we all living on this earth together. So we should take care of each other and the planet, that we can have a better future for our children and humanity.
My name is Wee Tai. I'm current third year, going into my fourth year at Clark University in Worcester, Mass. I originally was born in Sub-Saharan Vietnam and came over here when I was really young, about 6 months, when my parents both immigrated over here. And I've lived in Portland, Maine ever since. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here. My parents actually had a really cool story. They were kind of neighbors in the same neighborhood and met each other when they were young, ended up getting married and having me. My mom actually, my dad was in America already and couldn't be there when I was born, so it was just my mom. So props to her for being like a strong person and just a good mother and sticking by me. And 3 months after I was born, both my mom and my dad came over, and my mom immigrated me back to America, and specifically Portland, Maine, and we have lived here ever since. The original reason why my family's over here was my grandfather is a veteran. He fought during the Vietnam War, where the US came over and helped South Vietnam with the Cold War situation, and got the opportunity to take my grandma over here, and here I am. It's a long family tree line and timeline, but that's how I ended up here. I'm big on just the geography of Maine, absolutely. I love the 4 seasons, and unpopular opinion is that I don't mind the winters. Driving in it can be a little tough, but the winters are okay. But I also just love the community of Portland. I love how, like, for example, this charity, but also so many different programs and stuff have a highly focused, like, community-based work and community-based building. And I just love that about Maine, and I feel like, we can only grow from here and expand to other communities in Maine, as we are doing in Portland. But yeah, I just love that factor, and I can't wait to see what the future of Maine holds. Yeah. While Maine is beautiful and perfect, some struggles I do find here is just kind of the divide we have from rural and urban. Portland isn't the largest city, absolutely not in America, let alone the world, but I do feel like Portland has a very different mindset than if you were to travel to like Thompson or even Augusta. And I feel like something Maine can improve on, and something I want to work to improve, is just connecting all the communities. I think Mainers are great, and I do believe a lot of community work should connect with all communities in Maine, not just Portland, even though Portland is a great start. So yeah, a struggle I find is just kind of like that divide, especially politically, and just wanting to gap it. So what it means to be a young leader in Maine for me is just kind of like working with different communities and different people. Especially in high school when I was with the Seeds of Peace program. Not only did I get to meet people from, Syracuse, New York, LA, but I also got to meet a bunch of people from different parts of Maine. And being a young leader, just seeing these perspectives and holding dialogues to hear these different perspectives was really important to me, because when I was young and just growing up in Maine, I grew up around Portland mostly, so I understood rather, the importance of diversity and different perspectives and understanding stories, walking in other people's shoes. But I never really got that from other Mainers living in different communities in Maine. I believe education plays a major role in everybody's life, and should. And what I really like about Maine, or should I speak more specifically on Portland, just because that's just the community I know best, is just I really like that there is great public schools open for anyone, for any child to have an opportunity to a great education, because I believe that education has impacted me in such a positive way. It kept me open to learning and growing, but also understanding the importance of helping one another, because there are so many people on this earth, and there are so many people in this community alone that have different stories and perspectives, and education has taught me the value of that, and how extraordinary how extraordinary these perspectives can be for your own learning, but growing as a community, because we're all human at the end of the day, and it's best that we help our community and we help one another grow, not just ourselves. I am optimistic about my generation, especially the start of the social media generation, that we spread information, we talk about perspectives, we talk about issues, and we don't just shove that under the rug, and it might be uncomfortable, but a lot of learning comes from being outside of the comfort zone, and I think that my generation is understanding that, and we're gonna be the future and hopefully make it a more positive future. I'm currently majoring or pursuing a major of geography, urban economics. Essentially what that means is just I want to work with communities and city development, and I think I really love Portland, and I'm not sure if this is somewhere I will stay in the future, but that's my plan currently, and I definitely want to work with more of these programs as I continue my career, but also look to just develop it for everyone to have equal opportunities and kind of like these equal rights. And I know city planning and stuff can be a rough edge, especially when looking at issues of gentrification and redlining, but that's something I want to challenge and something I want to face.
Hello, my name is Robina Faizi Zetta. My family originally is from Afghanistan. How I ended up in Maine was that my dad got a scholarship to come to the United States. So we immigrated here with a scholarship. I've lived in Maine my whole life. What I like about Maine is that people here are friendly, the community itself is small. So those are two reasons why I like Maine. I don't think I faced any struggles. The only struggle that probably faced was that when we had Muslim holidays such as Eid, those weren't I don't know what the right word to use is, that it wasn't a thing that everyone celebrated in school, so it wasn't marked on our calendars. So it was hard fitting in the American society, and at the same time being an Afghan. I feel like if American students are able to celebrate Christmas and Easter and other holidays, I feel like that we should incorporate Muslim holidays as well. So growing up, that was a struggle, not having Eid as a holiday known in school. I think that's one policy that should be changed, considering immigrants' holidays as well in the calendar. I have seen more diversity in schools, in the community itself, so that's good. Communities are growing and there's more immigrants coming to Maine. So Americans are getting more familiar with different cultures. So yeah, that's one good thing that I see. That's a big growth in the community. My overall college experience was good. In a way, it was hard because I didn't know what college to choose. But I had a lot of friends attending the University of Southern Maine, and they had the program I was looking into. At the University of Southern Maine, I graduated with a bachelor's in public health and a minor in business administration. I currently work as a social worker with adults who have autism. Being a social worker is a hard job. You do have a lot of clients who have a lot of expectations. I'm doing a few things right now. I'm doing a mentoring program with Gateway. I work as a mentor. When I started that, I think a few months ago. I also work with the Afghan community, so I help Afghans who are struggling in this society and in this country. The other thing that I'm hoping to do is work as a community health worker. I'll be doing that soon as well. I'll be visiting Afghan families and I'll be doing home visits and working on a research project with them. So those are a few things that I am doing in the community. I've had a lot of exposure with new Afghans that have arrived to Maine. One of the main hardships that they deal with is learning the language, the English language itself. A second thing that they have a hard time doing is learning how to drive here and learning basically the laws here. The other third struggle would be their kids adjusting to the society here and the schools here. Even the parents have a hard time. So those are a few things that I've noticed. The advice that I would have for the kids, the new Afghan kids that have arrived, is to always stay committed and motivated in what you hope to succeed in the future. If they're committed and they're motivated, they'll always succeed in whatever they want to accomplish in life.
I am a local Mainer. I grew up in Brunswick, and so I have lived in Maine my entire life, and moved to Portland about 5 or 6 years ago, but my family is here, and so I grew up here. I graduated from high school here. I went away to New York for college, and I actually didn't think I would come back. I was like, I'm staying in New York and I'm not coming back, but my family is here, and so I made my way back to Maine, and I've been here ever since. Awesome. What I love most about living in Maine is the things that I actually didn't like when I was younger. Like we have a lot of beauty here that I think is really, like, I wasn't appreciating it the way that I should. I love that I don't have to travel very far to get to water. I don't have to go very far to get to the beach. And if I want, the city feel of a small city like Portland, that's great. But if I want to go, closer into nature and closer to the mountains, I'm able to do that quickly as well. So I think we have the best of both worlds living here. My struggle is just the fact that we have so little diversity here, and I think it's way more than we had when I was younger. I was the only Black student in school until like 5th grade, I think, and then there were only 2 of us. And that was really challenging, I think, just feeling like, there were others around that looked like me. That just wasn't the case. So I stuck out a lot, and people were, of course, always wondering like where I came from and, saying things that were really hard to hear. And I had to have a lot of conversations, I think, at a younger age about race in a way that I wasn't prepared for, because I was just a kid. But yeah, I think that's probably the hardest part, is feeling like I was always sticking out and always being stared at. And it still happens now. We've diversified a lot more, but I still find myself being like the first or the second or the third Black woman of something. And I think that's a challenging title to hold. My whole goal is I need to pave a way for others to come after me and have it easier than I did. And I think a lot of that exists within being on city council. I'm the second Black woman that's ever been on the Portland City Council. And that is really important. And it's a really heavy thing to carry. But I realized that I'm blazing a trail that didn't exist before, and I have a responsibility to make more room for Black women to come after me and diverse perspectives to come after me. And so I think in all of my spaces that I occupy, just existing in those spaces as the first and being a Black woman that's an activist and speaks out about racial equity, it's really important, because I hope that by doing that, we can have younger Black women that can thrive and don't have to have those conversations if they don't want to. My education has impacted my life greatly, and I think it's a huge privilege to be able to go to college, and it's something that I don't take lightly, because not everybody is awarded that privilege, and I was able to go to college. And I think it was good that I got to leave Maine. I always feel like I needed to leave for a little while and figure out who I was and what I cared about. And I had a wide range of classes that I was able to take that were in Black history and in things that I was never really taught growing up in Brunswick and going to school in Brunswick. So it helped to just be in a space where I could identify who I was. I could use some of the tools that I learned back here. And yeah, it was a really great privilege that I was awarded, and I try and work hard to use a lot of what I learned in school, to apply it to my future. I think policy-wise, to help the next generation is like what I'm focused a lot on, especially as a young person and as a Black woman, because I want us as a city to really invest in young people, and especially young Black people and young Black people of color, so that they don't feel like they need to leave Maine in order to find success and to find opportunities. I think if we can create those opportunities here, the city of Portland and really all of Maine would really thrive. And then we could allow community to be created by individuals who are of ethnic and racial backgrounds. And by doing that, I think that will ripple out into the entirety of the communities. And I think in our future of Portland and of Maine, it changes every day, because sometimes I'm not having a great day on the city council and I'm like, it's not going well. But I think I have to remember who I'm doing this for, and it's always for the generation that's gonna come after me. So if I have to like fight and claw my way into spaces that weren't meant for me, I know I'm doing that in the best interest of the next group that's going to come after. And so I always try and keep that in mind and just really push forward. And what I'm most optimistic about, I think, is just we have such a great group of really young and energetic, dynamic leaders here, whether you're in the political space or the activist space or the community and arts space. We have so many great individuals that live here that are really working hard to decolonize spaces and practice restorative justice and really move forward with saying we are going to advocate and amplify voices of those who've just been historically under-resourced. And it feels really good to be in those spaces, because then it's like we're all doing this together, and the makeup of Portland, I think, will really continue to change when we have more leaders in positions of power that didn't have a life in politics, that weren't privileged to, have opportunities, but individuals that haven't, that have been under-resourced and haven't had those opportunities given to them are rising to the top and leading conversations. And I think that that's really exciting. So I hope that we, have more of that, because I can't wait for us to be led by people that have lived experience, because I think that that's really important. The advice I have for the younger generations, I feel like it's also like the advice I give myself, which is just to keep going and keep taking up space, and especially in the spaces that aren't created for you. And I think of that being on city council. Like, I was not supposed to be there. It's not a space that is for, like young, progressive, radical Black women who are, rooted in amplification of historically under-resourced voices. That's not really like where I'm supposed to be, but I'm there. And I think that speaks to what we can really do as young people and as women with different backgrounds and lived experiences. So my advice is keep going, keep taking up space, but also celebrate joy and find your time to take a step back and pour into yourself with the things that you like doing, because it can also be a really exhausting place to be when you're fighting and advocating all day against people who want different things than you. And I think my advice for the older generation is to just understand that we're taking up space, and that we would love to be invited to your tables, but that we will also just create our own tables if there's not space for us at yours. And the next generation is here, and really Portland and Maine are changing, and I'm very excited to see what we do and what happens. So I would just say buckle up, because we're here.